So today's topic is what we have started, building information system. There are 4 kinds of structural organization change that enabled by IT. Yeah. So let's take a look at one by one. What are the 4 kinds of structural organization change that can happen by the IT system? So the IT system here, you can always refer to ERP system or HRM system or any other enterprise related system, yeah, that we have discussed in the last 2 sessions. So what are the 4 kinds of structural organization? Definitely the most critical one, or that our first priority is always to automate as many as possible tasks that you have in your current organization. So we call that automation. Why we are doing that? Definitely, like every one of us would agree, to increase the efficiency in order to replace the manual tasks. So it's going to be day-to-day, repetitive, and standard operating procedures. Yeah, once it is fully tested and accepted and approved and accepted, it's going to be fully automated process. Next, the big change will be in terms of rationalization, meaning we will try to standardize or streamline standard operating procedures, not only with the HQ and the branches, if possible throughout the entire company, the entire organization. Everybody use the same SOP. If possible, we will have a centralized system or distributed system where all of us will be doing the same thing, exactly the same thing, following the same policy, referring to the same policy, practicing the same practices. Doesn't matter which industry are you in, but SOP is there that all of us will be following, and all of us will be using the same system, same software, so there will be no difference in terms of SOP, which our target or our aim is to fulfill the audit requirement. So the next structural change is what we call rationalization. Moving on, which is quite important or quite popular, is what we call business process re-engineering, where we will start analyzing, simplifying, and redesign the current business process into a new process or into an improved process, so that we can have a better output, faster output, and so on. So we call that business process re-engineering, and this is quite common, especially when we are moving or transforming an existing system into a new system. And this is happening all the time. Unless we set up a completely brand new system with a new model, then you don't go through this. You might go through this after a couple of years down the road. Otherwise, many of us during the pandemic, post and pre, we have gone through this. And many educational institutions also have transformed from face-to-face blended into fully online, exactly like what we are doing now. And the 4th structural organization change that enabled by IT system is what we call paradigm shift. Complete business model change. So we need to rethink nature of business. Exactly, we have to look into our current processes. Who are the people involved in the current businesses? What are the procedures, practices, documents, products that we have today, and how all this will be changed or impacted in the future. So that's what we call paradigm shift. So we have to define new business model change that going to take place within the business, within the organization, and how we're going to manage, maintain, and moving on with the new requirements or new change of business, new business model, and so on. So these are the 4 main areas that IT has a big impact on any organizational. Moving on, what you can see on the slide is infographic on how these 4 areas, automation, rationalization, re-engineering, and paradigm shift, compare with risk, compare with risk or in comparison with risk. Of course, automation, if anything goes wrong, we can always pull it out, or we do what we call drawback, or we go back to the manual task to continue so that the business is not affected, so the risk is low. Rationalization, also the risk, I will say, is not very high, it's still low. But when it comes to re-engineering and paradigm shift, where actually we are, again it depends on the method, implementation method that we are going for, which you will see later. The risk is quite high. There will be some tasks or some processes or some SOP that cannot be revert back to the old methods or mechanism. It is like a one way. If that is the case, then the risk is high. Otherwise, if you do parallel implementation, you have an old system and new system running in parallel for a fixed period of time, then you have an option, which is a common case where we can always fall back to the old option or to the old system while the new system is still under evaluation or testing. So it all again depends to the people who are involved, management call, business needs. There are some business where you cannot run both systems at the same time. You have no choice, either you go with one system, the current system, or new system. So it very much depends on the business nature. So this chart basically tells you what are the options that you have and what are the risks it comes with. So let's look at BPR, business process re-engineering, to some extent. This can cause large payoff, can result from redesigning business process. For example, what they have given you is a home mortgage industry use IT to redesign mortgage application process, costing $3,000 and taking 6 to 8 weeks to 1 week process costing, which is around $1,000. So there is a huge investment involved here, with a certain amount of time that involved in making sure the business process re-engineering is complete. So it is not like overnight or within short period of time. The reason is there will be many sequential tasks, or we call manual tasks or current tasks, need to be replaced, need to be created as a new task, and then the people involved need to be trained, need to be good at, support team need to be set up, training need to be provided, documentation need to be done. So there are a lot of tasks or activities involved in making this happen. So that's the reason why the cost is high and the duration is long. And then the workflow management also need to be studied carefully. Who are the people involved? What are the processes or tasks involved? What need to be changed? What can be improved? What are the issues and problems? All need to be studied and properly documented. So that's the reason why it takes huge tasks or responsibility of the team involved in making this happen. You can see the process involved in planning the organizational change when come to the redesigning business process, which we are looking at mortgage processing in US, for example. Please go through this slide in your second sessions during the open discussion. Reason I cannot go through with you now because we have many slides to cover for today. So we can use this slide to discuss during the open discussion. Run through it and take a look at the details, how the flow is, and what are the tasks or activities involved in making this happen. And also you have another slides, redesigning mortgage processing in US after the re-engineering by the team. So go through this slide as well. Try to understand what are the activities involved, what are the input and feedback related to the redesigning of business engineering. Follow up is another slide which requires your interactive sessions with your team members. Also go through this, brainstorm this during the open discussion. There are some questions here. For example, what was wrong with the existing computer system and why did SBA decide to replace it? Yeah, so the Small Business Administration, yeah, SBA decide to replace it. So go through the rest of the question, brainstorm with your friends and try to come out with some recommendation out of your discussion during the second sessions. So with that, I'm going to continue with the next slide. Steps in effective re-engineering. First, what need to be improved are such as strategic analysis and pain points. Pain points. These are the steps involved in effective re-engineering. So we need to look at all the strategic approach or activities or methods or steps that we have within the organization. Some could be very critical, some could be maybe day-to-day or for decision-making purpose, or related very specifically to certain tasks or areas or departments. So we need to analyze all those strategies, prioritize them, assign the right people with the right skill so that they can automate or they can do re-engineering to this strategic approach to come out with a more automated or more rationalized strategy, which can be either executed by the system, by the new system, or it can be semi-structured like what we discussed yesterday, where it requires top management to do some decision. Partially decision can be made by the system. It all depends on your nature of business. And also need to look at the pain points. For example, the vulnerabilities or the weaknesses, or where are some drawbacks or limitations that can be considered, how we can automate that or rationalize that, or how we can improve those steps, or even to include into the automation steps. So moving on, we need to identify and describe all existing processes, meaning what you need to do in detail, assign people, the right people to identify all the input and output for each task, each process, each step, flow of products, network of activities and buffers, resources involved, information structure and flow, process owners, process actors, and decision makers. So basically you need to study everything related with the current business so that we can change, whichever possible, into a new flow, into a new environment. Also need to understand how much process costs and how long to perform. So of course we have steps like the Gantt chart. If you do that, it will tell you what are the processes, what are the detailed steps, who are the people involved, and how long to perform each of those steps or processes will be documented in detail. For those who don't have a proper MS Project tools, for example, you can always do this using Excel, MS Excel, which is quite good enough. Or there will be some free third-party software that you can download and use it for this purpose. You need to come out with the process cost in detail, time, how long it takes to complete that task, quality, who will be responsible, how many of them, individual or group, whether it can be done in parallel or it need to be done in serial, sequential, and also is there any flexibility, such as, for example, can it be done later, or it got to do it early, or is there some other process depending on this process, the input from this process is an output to another process, or some other processes need to be done first before you can do this. So you have to look into all the details before you can transform the old task or the old process into a new process. So these are the huge and complicated tasks involved in re-engineering. I'm very sure many of you have done this. It is not new for you. So this is what we call innovation, or innovatively we transform, or they call it paradigm shift, change the old ways of doing things into the new method. Continue on the same topic, we also need to identify all the methods that can improve process. So might as well we take the opportunity to do the same. Replace sequential step with parallel, for example, if it is required, if it can be done. Enrich jobs by enhancing decision making and concentrating information. Enable information sharing throughout to all participants. There are many tools are available, or the enterprise systems are capable. The enterprise systems are built in with these features, as you have seen in the last 1 or 2 sessions. Eliminate buffers, so we don't want any delays in terms of stock or inventories, delivery, orders, purchasing, and so on. We will plan according to the planning mechanism that you have put in place. Transform batch processing and decision making into continuous flow processes, meaning we will try to go away from any batch processing that you have to do in a bulk or in a group into a automated process. Even semi-structured into structured, into fully automated, so that it can be done continuously by the system if possible, rather than interference or require human interaction, for example. So the whole idea is to automate everything if possible to new automated system. From my experience, we have done this in many areas in automation, in manufacturing, where we have simplified the tasks the operators need to do, simplified the tasks where the supervisors need to carry out, need to monitor, from the routine manual job into fully automated job by the system. And also the experience that we learn is where we have cut down many unnecessary steps into lesser automated steps. And of course the system can do a better decision with the right data and information compared to human being, because these floor people, especially these operators, they do have their own limitation in terms of skills and knowledge. Sometimes they do make mistake. We human beings, definitely we have our own limitation, weaknesses, but once we automate it, we can eliminate all that factors and things will move better and faster. So that really helps the firms manage the process changes through automation. Also, it helps us reduce the misprocessing events or cases tremendously, and in order to achieve all this, we also use some tools, automated tools. We call that process mapping tools, simply to identify and document existing processes into new processes and new documentation, which are mostly will be available online or on real-time basis. Also, at the same time, through the BPM, what we have done, we have created models, new models of improved processes that can be translated into automated, fully automated system. So some of other activities which will be involved when you do BPM, doesn't matter which industry we are talking or we are in, also definitely will include workflow management, business process modeling notations, quality measurement and management, change management, in terms of resources, in terms of number of resources, number of people, the skills required for the people, training that need to go through by them, tools for standardizing business processes so they can be continually manipulated in order to improve the productivity, as well as process monitoring and analytic requirements. So this is a long list of where we need to look into in order to support the BPM, business process management. When we consider quality management, which is also a very important factors to look at when we transform the old business into a new, is such as fine-tuning business processes to improve the quality of the product, the services and operation. So this is another important factors or criteria to consider. Make sure they are better than the previous one. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile the investment and the changes and the effort that we are going through. The earlier in the business cycle a problem is eliminated, the less is cost to the company. So I think we all understood that. If we can identify the problem earlier, of course the cost of that problem will be lesser, time taken to be also shorter, and it doesn't impact or cause many changes. If you find the same problem toward the end or toward later part of the project, it's going to cost us more, it's going to get more complicated, it's going to involve more people and more changes to your system, and definitely it's going to delay the entire project. Quality improvement raise level of product and service quality as well as at lower cost. So that is the main target why we want to improve the quality of the overall system. So also some of us, or maybe most of us, are quite familiar with TQM, total quality management. Is a way to achieve the quality control in our product, in our services and so on. Everyone is expected to contribute to improve of quality, because quality is not just any individual or any department's responsibility, but it is everyone's responsibility in the firm or in any particular organization. And sometimes we do have some companies, like in manufacturing, it is very common that all of us need to be trained on Six Sigma kind of approach, where we use specific measures of quality in order to achieve good quality product, services and operation. And definitely there will be a lot of defect that can be fixed or eliminated by moving into this approach. So before we take a short break, let's take a look at one more slide, one or two slides. Continue talking under the same topic. Information system, definitely, yeah, and we understand and we agree, support quality improvement, and definitely will be helping the firm meeting the objective. Definitely MIS system or the enterprise system can be used to simplify product or processes by the four structural change of the main activities that we discussed earlier, such as automation, rationalization, and so on. Make improvement based on customer demands or customer needs. Reduce cycle time, the time to market your product or your services. Improve quality and precision of design and production, where definitely MIS system with its features and capabilities can be used to improve quality and precision of design and production, especially when it comes to engineering based or engineering related business, and also will assist in meeting benchmarking standards. As we all know, benchmarking is definitely one of the options that we have to perform in order to set strict standards for products or services or any other related services, and to make sure performance measurement against the standards are being carried out, so that we are on par or even better than the benchmark or our competitors, in other words. So with that IT system, yeah, or the MI system, definitely it becomes a very important tool, very critical tool, and we can clearly see that how IT is being used with the BI and BA tools that we talked yesterday, how the business intelligence and business analysts or business analytical related tools can be used in improving or in creating a new system in any firm or in any industry, right? Okay, so with that, before we moving on into the next chapter, which is overview of system development,